in your official capacity unless you've got authority from your committee to speak on their behalf.
Okay, so now that's been said, do we have any other public comment on this matter? Sandy is raising his hand, but we have someone else here. Denise.
Denise Government, 74 Atherton Avenue. I just have a question actually, and I think it would be very helpful for the community at large to understand what the scope of the project is, because I think there is some ambiguity about that. In looking at the presentation that was made on April 6th, 2011, I think that was to Park and Rec. One of the funding items would be expansion of parking in the park. And so, as somebody who, voted on this proposal, I didn't understand that expanding the parking areas in the park might be part of this project. And I'm not sure that there's a general understanding of that at all. So I think a clear definition as to what is encompassed in this project would be very helpful. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay.
Sandy Critton as a resident. I'm a regular user of the park, and I read the negative declaration and mitigation for the original permit for the Little League, and noticed that the placement of the ballpark was going to be closest to Watkins Avenue. And it was approved and signed, but the Little League isn't where it was supposed to be. It hasn't been, I don't have any record that it's been amended either, so I hope that that would be corrected. I would also hope that the council takes into account the traffic impact it's going to have in the park, the parking. I didn't even know until I read the budget that there was going to, of the Little League, that there was planning on adding extra parking, which is going to take up more open space. And I need to get a more clarification why a 200-seat parking, 200-seat stadium is needed for a Little League field, unless there's some other use that's planning. And I also, one of the things that affects me probably the most on every day I walk there is the visual of that field is beautiful. It's not often that you can get that kind of greenery unobstructed, except when you go around and have to look through the chain link of the backstop. And to have more impact on that visual field, I think really needs to be addressed and it needs to be studied. So I'm recommending that you consider an EIR for this and really look into the concerns that the residents will have on this. And make sure that the negative declaration that was done for the Little League, either you put it back where it was supposed to be and approved, or you amend it so that it's correct. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Judy Fisher, 38 Tuscaloosa. I was on the council that authorized the original Little League, and at the council meeting that we acted on that, we changed the position at the meeting. So I am hoping that Lisa or Neil have something in their records that will show that that was done, and I think it was an emotion of Alan Carlson and myself that did it, and I'm sorry I can't remember the year.
Well, we'll be able to.
Right. I mean, it was done at
We'll
a
be able
council
to
meeting,
research
and
that.
it was, I'm sure, it was,
Okay.
and I think it was a 5-0 vote.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other public comments?
Valerie Gardner, 18 McCormick Lane. I think we're treading new ground, and I think we're at a real juncture here for the council to show leadership in providing residents with better information about what is going on, where things stand, what the process will be, where there are opportunities to weigh in, and to do it through use of a better website, better outreach, and through better communication in general. And I put it to you as new council and new town manager that I think that time has come for us to not sit on the old website, but to really get up and figure out the right way to approach the information age as a way to engage people better. That's one point, and the second point I'd like to make is that it's very easy, or it's easier to do one project at a time, but I believe that there are a lot of interactions between these projects, and I would recommend that rather than try and do one project and then the next project and then the next project, that we look at their synergies and their issues. For example, I think one of the problems with the way we approached things before was that we were trying to solve a fiscal problem with a building. And I think we need to look at the fiscal issues that we have and also solve some of the building issues that we have. So I would propose that when we think about any changes to the park, we also think about funding the park and creating a mechanism for it to have money that supports it as a way to help solve some of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public that would like to make a statement? Okay, if not, I'm going to bring it back to council and ask our council members for comments. Councilman Dottie?
Yes. Well, I think this is quite a serious issue, you know. When people were discussing the library in the park, one of the big items that was discussed was the increase in traffic. Whether that was correct or not, I don't know, but certainly when this baseball field goes in, it's going to increase the traffic. And I think that Sandy Crittenden said that we should have an EIR. I don't know whether that's in the plan or not, but it certainly seems to me, in view of the environmental impacts, that it might be a very good idea of an EIR. And then, if we don't do that, this certainly, in my mind, should first of all go to the Park and Rec Commission, and then it should go to the Planning Commission, so that we can have as much public input as possible. Certainly, when the Planning Commission looks at it, it should be made public that they're looking at it, and that we should invite any members of the public to come and give their opinions. Sometimes these things happen at the Planning Commission. I've been a member of the Planning Commission for many years. Sometimes they happen and we don't give enough publicity to what they're going to discuss. I know that it's all published, but maybe it would be a good idea in this could have a major impact in the park, that we should make sure that when the Planning Commission does look at it, that we make sure that the residents are aware and that they are available to attend if they so desire.
Any other council members?
Yeah,
Gary?
thank you. Through the chair. I'm going to have to echo Mr. Bob's comments related to try to get a timeline and to get an idea of where we sit as a town and how we can all work together to come up with a plan that's going to be reasonable for all parties. And I think that that's something that staff, I think that if they organize it for us and give us a base plan, that's going to be reasonably helpful for Little League. If all the parties involved, including all the committees, as well as the Planning Commission, also get on a timeline, we can all, make better decisions with better public input when Little League has an opportunity also to present to, if it's the Planning Commission or so on and so forth, and what is feasible in what they are asking to be done. So I would really like to see a timeline and everybody to get together. George, you working with the committees involved, Little League, and getting something in writing so we have something to look at and we don't draw this out for 5 years. So that's it for me.
Okay, any other council members?
Yeah, a question for Mike. In the staff report, I think you very appropriately have suggested that staff get together with the, how do you pronounce that, Mal? M-A-L-L. Get together with them and work out certain things. Can you explain what you have in mind with that and what you hope to accomplish there?
Well, I think the first thing is just to make sure, we get more detail. So we sit down so that we have an accurate and common understanding of what they're proposing. I also think that as staff, there's other questions that such as who's going to be constructing this. And so there are a number of detailed items. And So what we could do as staff is we could, after having this meeting, come back to you with more specifics from a staff standpoint, what our recommendation is as far as process. From a staff perspective, whether or not we feel that it's necessary for any further environmental review. So that as a council, then you can certainly direct us to do whatever. But until we sit down and get the details, until we understand what type of process, public process, the council wants to go through, because that's really going to dictate that timeline, depending on how much, what type and how much public process.
Mike, would you get into questions like the ongoing maintenance of public, any concerns about security or safety and those kinds of things, or what is the?
Well, I would anticipate that all those things would be addressed, as well as more of a longer-term lease for the Little League, so that they have certainty on their ability to continue to use it. And I also think there's an opportunity but all those things you said need to be addressed, and who's responsible. But those are the details that we just need to sit down with the mental ethic and Little League representatives. Also, as part of the original proposal, there were some additional improvements that they were offering that weren't specifically related to the Little League Diamond, but more general improvements to the park itself. So we wanted to, make sure we have an understanding of what that is as well.
I have a little, more than a little concern, I guess, about the zigzag process we've gone through here in the past on the thing. When I look at the minutes, Park and Rec, the clear decision was made to approve the project and to move it along to the Planning Commission. And also the minutes of the council seem to indicate the same thing, that was the direction that they were going to be moving the project. I guess where I am in my thought process right now, and I'm certainly not, it's not cast in concrete, but trying to think of what, there has been public or opportunities for public engagement on this. Certainly a 3-year process must have had several opportunities. Certainly the voters that voted for it had opportunity to, or voted against it as well, had opportunities to ask questions and get clarification. So one of the things in my mind that's different is the fact that it has gone in front of the voters. It has gotten quite a bit of community attention. So if anything is done by Park and Rec in the future, I wouldn't ask them to approve the plan. What value added they might provide is listening to what the plan is after has been further worked out by you, staff. The details is for perhaps Park and Rec and any public input at that meeting to raise any remaining issues or questions that need to be addressed. I can see where that might be a value added, but I don't think that we need to go through an EIR process, nor do I think we need to go recycle back and have a study session of the thing in detail by Park and Rec. But maybe it provides some value by asking those questions. But I would be certainly open to your suggestion to sit down, work out the details, and come with a clear plan as to how to proceed in the most expeditious fashion on this.
Did you want to make another comment? Okay. So my feelings are that the Little League is getting the runaround quite a lot. It's been like a little pinball going through the pinball machine, and getting bounced from one committee to another. And in the midst of going through the Planning Commission process, which had been directed by council to do, and they were, and essentially the planning commissioners were in the process of working with Little League to massage the plan to, an acceptable town structure or vehicle here. And then it was just pulled out from under them, and they had to go to the town for, the residents for a ballot measure. Now, what the residents voted on, a very large margin, like 4-1. I mean, it was a large margin of people approving that we're gonna permit them to improve the baseball field and surrounding areas at Holbrook Palmer Park, including covered seating for spectators, and improved playing area for children, and new restrooms for all park users using private funds. This is a gift. This is a really big gift that is being offered to the town. Now, do we need to manage that process? Do we need to manage the scope? I believe that through the planning commission process, that was happening. Now, to make them go back to the Park and Rec and start all over is, I think, something that is not reasonable, even though there are 5 new members of the Park and Rec. I know that it might be beneficial to the Park and Rec Commission to look at the plan and get up to speed on it. I have no problem with that, but for them to kind of try to suggest that they go back to the drawing board after they've jumped through all the hoops that they have been asked to jump through, and it just seems like that, okay, we're gonna change the rules and make you jump through one more hoop here. My sense and is that we do need to sort this out and give clear direction in a process, a timeline of how this project is going to move forward. And we need that to come from staff. I think the next step would be to have them go back to Planning Commission, have them continue to work through that, and have Planning Commission recommend to council what modifications and boundaries or structures that they have to recommend. That's my sense.
This was an informational item, so staff can take that direction back and come back in January with some more details and a proposed timeline.
So we'll close that item number and move on to council reports and comments. I was late in getting my council report to you all, but I did send it out, and I think it was sent out. And since we have a new member of the council, Carrie, one of our rules and good council member functions is to submit a report of all of the activities you do from one month to the next, so that we can stay up to date on what you're doing. As you know, Councilmember Carlson is very involved in the high-speed rail, and if you read his report, you then also can be up to date in all the activities of high-speed rail. So, if anybody have any other further comments on your council comments?
Well, I'd like to make a comment or two. I think we've been very skimpy on our reports on regional meetings that we are representing the town at. I think it's this is one mechanism by which other council members gain some knowledge as to what is going on in these other areas. And so I would urge my fellow council members to help provide the education that we need to have, perspective on these things. I might comment about the Council of Cities. Carrie and Elizabeth, we both were there to represent our town. And Elizabeth came very close to pulling the biggest upset of the year, and just by a narrow margin was not elected to the Transportation Authority, running against a politician who has been on that particular committee for some time. So I really thank you for running, and I think that there was a lot of support for you and for making a change there. We still have the Metropolitan Transportation Commission slot that was not decided, and I understand there are 3 candidates there that And we haven't had any reports from the past, going back to the regional thing, on the library, the county library committee, other than one I kind of forced one night, but
Right.
we need to have this sharing of information on an ongoing basis.
Right. It is, it's really important because we're appointed to those regional committees for the purpose of representing our town's interests and bringing back to our council the regional issues that are discussed. I have an editor, I'm on the Grand Boulevard Initiative Task Force, and there's an editorial that was in December 7th, San Francisco paper that I'm going to go ahead and just pass on to the council. That was not included in my report. That talks a little bit about all the activities that the Grand Boulevard is undertaking. It's very informative. So, do we have any other members of the public want to make a comment before we call for a motion to adjourn? If not, oh, one more, yes, sure.
This pertains to the drainage issue, is it appropriate?
You know, we had closed our public comment and closed our discussion on that, since it wasn't item on the agenda. It was an
The
item.
reason it's inappropriate is because other people might want to hear what you have to say, and it might engender other comments and thoughts on their part.
And
And
now-
so once they close the
Sorry.
discussion on the item, other people may leave.
But feel free to keep them on.
Thank you very much. Well, do we have any future agenda items? I think our January dance card is full. So I would like to, take this time to thank you all again and wish you all a happy holidays, safe and joyous, and call for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, aye. We're adjourned. Thank you so much.